My name is Quinn. I'll be running this sermon for everyone here. And as it says on there, everyone is welcome and loved here. So now I'll begin with the San Vito chant. We respectfully welcome Amida Buddha to our temple as we scatter flowers of joy. We respectfully welcome the Buddhas of all times and places to our temple as we scatter flowers of joy. And now we'll recite the 6 paramitas. Giving, may I be generous and helpful. Guidance, may I be guided by the Buddhist precepts. Tolerance, may I regard the mistakes of others with sympathy. Perseverance, may I do my best in all things. Meditation, may I reflect deeply on my life through the Buddha's teachings. Insight, may I understand the meaning of Nama Amida Butsu. And we'll continue on to the Bodhisattva vows. The many beings are numberless. I vow to save them. Greed, hatred, and ignorance rise endlessly. I vow to abandon them. Dharma gates are countless. I vow to wait to them. Buddha's way is unsurpassed. I vow to embody it fully. All right? With that, we'll move on to the lesson. Service for today.
Thank everybody for coming. This means a lot to me, and I'm doing what I'm very passionate about, which is helping and healing people and helping people be guided back to their own personal truth and finding joy and happiness in life now. So there are ways of thinking and just really simple kind of aha moments when you realize those you start to make the shifts and changes that really do affect your life on a grand level. And so being aware of those really can give you a real good shot at having some happiness and really finding your soul's path and purpose here in this lifetime. That's my passion and my joy is to help people reach that. You know, enlightenment is something that's a lifelong process and it continually happens.
All right. And today our sermon is on understanding suffering and embracing truth. So welcome, beautiful ones. Whether you're here in person or joining in spirit from afar, know that you're held in a sacred space today. I'm honored to carry this torch while our beloved teacher Erin continues her mission and beliefs, spreading light across borders. Last week, we opened our hearts to the life of the Buddha, his journey, his seeking, and his awakening. This week, we begin to gently explore the teachings that blossomed from his awakening, the first of which is understanding the truth of suffering. The heart of Buddha's message was, after his enlightenment, the Buddha shared what he called the 4 Noble Truths. These weren't commandments or rules, but observations of life, gentle offerings of wisdom to help us walk with more peace. And the very first truth he taught was this: there is suffering. Not in a hopeless way, but in a way that says you are not alone. To be born, to grow old, to lose what we love, to not get what we desire, these things bring discomfort. Even our restless minds, our insecurities, and our confusion, these too are part of what the Buddha called dukkha, often translated as suffering or dissatisfaction. So right now I want you all to take a breath and look into your own life. Is there a place where you have felt pain lately? Tension you carry, maybe a loss, a fear, or even a quiet longing for more peace? The Buddha wasn't trying to discourage us. He was trying to help us see clearly. Because only when we acknowledge that something is off can we begin to restore harmony. Suffering is a shared human experience. We often think we're supposed to be happy all the time. But imagine a life where every sadness, every confusion, and every moment of grief was actually a doorway, an invitation to healing. The Buddha wasn't focused on staying in suffering. He was focused on helping us understand it, so that we can move through it. Today, we just touch on this first truth. We won't rush through all four. We'll walk through them slowly, together, over time. Truth as compassion. There's a reason the Buddha began here. Because naming our suffering with honesty and compassion is powerful. It's like cleaning a wound. You wouldn't ignore it or shame it. You would tend to it, listen to it, and gently begin to heal. This is what the First Noble Truth invites us to do. To see clearly, to stop pretending everything is okay when it isn't. And to know that even our hardest moments, or even in our hardest moments, we are not alone. So, as a closing reflection, as Aaron shares light and healing across the waters and beliefs, may you hold this temple strong here. Let us take this teaching and live it, not with heaviness, but with a deep breath of truth. You are allowed to feel. You are allowed to acknowledge what hurts. And you are allowed to begin again. So now I'll move on into our meditative chants so that we may better connect with the divine. Feel free to join in with me.
Namaste. So I want to share something with you that can help you during meditations, breath work, mindfulness, just to still your mind, quiet yourself, and allow more access to hear your higher self. Yogena tutasha bodhenuvatra travashati kenam yopakurat dim rabadam bodhidam patanjaliham.
Alright. And then lastly, before we go into our meditation, I'm going to go ahead and help remove any blockages that you may have. So just bring to mind anything you feel that is blocking you, that is keeping you from moving forward and from moving on into your next stage of life, or just anything that's just keeping you blocked up right now. with that done, let's go ahead and move into our meditation. For those who are joining us and don't know about the infinity breath, it is a breathing technique wherein we start by breathing out all the stale energy as a bottom loop, like an 8, like infinity. So we just breathe out all that stale air, and then we hold in our center for an amount of time that feels comfortable to us. And then for that upper loop, we breathe in all that creator light, that creator energy, and then we hold again in our center. And then we breathe out again, and as we breathe out, we just circulate in that 8 formation in a rhythm that is comfortable to us. So I'll just go through a couple loops of that. And just go ahead and find a rhythm that fits you, whatever feels right for you in this moment. You know, whatever your pace is, whatever's comfortable for you. And as you go ahead and do this infinity breath, I want you to feel your feet on the ground, connected, and just feel the energy as it pushes up through you, slowly moving up through your legs, up, gradually until it reaches your root chakra, and then up, through your sacral, through your solar plexus, through your heart, up, gradually going up through your throat, finally making its way to your third eye, and then moving up, and then out through your crown, connecting you with everything, and just feel that energy, and just in your own time, just gradually open up your eyes and come back to us, and just feel at peace. Alright? So, and this week, I'd like you to try noticing the moments that cause tension, frustration, or grief, and instead of pushing them away, greet them with curiosity. Ask, what is this showing you? And know that you are walking the same path the Buddha walked, towards understanding and towards peace. Alright. Then I'll go ahead and give you your Reiki healing of the mind. Alright. So I've got a card here for us to keep in mind for this week. It's your spiritual journey. We are all spiritual all of the time because that is what we are. Spirit having a human experience, not humans having a spiritual experience. However, each person's spiritual journey has to be taken at a pace and in the way that suits him or her. So just keep this in mind throughout the week and see how it may help you in your path. Alright, and with that, namaste to you all who joined us for the service. If any of you want to continue on and join us for the podcast afterwards, we're going to discuss the message from today and what we've been going through in the week, and how we've integrated and worked with the lesson from last time. So if you feel like joining us, you can stay on. Otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful week, and I wish you well. All right, we'll get started setting up. Okay. Alright, let's see. Okay. There we go. Okay, so it seems like the mics are working well. Let's go ahead and get started. So Miguel, do you have anything to say about today's sermon? Or anything you've integrated from the previous week?
Well, everyone suffers. Everyone. And I would say every major religion and every major messenger of said religions, they all teach about suffering in some way, whether or not it's hell and demons, or it's just, or it's talking about just your bad actions will lead to suffering, whether you or other people, or if it's just your own bad thoughts. There's always, in all the major beliefs, there's always some form of suffering. And so, it's just a natural part of life. We all suffer. And ultimately, it requires discipline for us to get past that point of suffering, because a lot of people, they're content with the suffering. It's that, they think to themselves, well, it's easier just to settle for the suffering and just take solace in that suffering, just be content, and so it's a real challenge to get to that point where you get from suffering to a much better state of mind, spiritually speaking, because if you don't make that effort, you're just going to wallow in your suffering until you finally decide to take that step forward. So.
Right. Yeah, and I definitely feel like it is important, and it's highlighted in the sermon that it's important for us to be kind to ourselves in that suffering, to recognize that it is something that everybody goes through, and it is something that it's okay for us to feel. It's something for us to take notice of and to recognize and to really look at, how are we feeling in this given moment. Not to wallow in it, like you said, but like to just recognize, okay, I'm feeling down, and you know, what can I do to, just make things better for myself, to put my, to work towards enjoying my life more, to maybe like to not let go of this, but to recognize like what in this is speaking to you on a personal level, like what in this suffering, what in this discomfort, this sadness is sending you a message, right? Like something that needs to change, or something that we haven't really noticed, that just like we need to pay more attention to in ourselves.
Right. And even in a medical standpoint, a lot of times we cause our own suffering, because like any psychologist will tell you, if you keep insulting yourself, downing yourself, and say, oh, I can't do this, and whatnot, you're not going to do it. It's just a simple matter of fact. And so it's always better to have positive affirmations. And so you are what you tell yourself. And so if you keep telling yourself you can't do it, you can't do it. But we all make mistakes, and yes, these mistakes in the moment will cause us suffering, and sometimes it might have everlasting suffering. Sometimes it'll lead us in very bad situations that we didn't expect and never hoped for. But sometimes just the consequences of our actions can lead us into suffering. So it's always good to be mindful of the things that you do. It's like the old saying, you reap what you sow. So if you're doing bad things are eventually going to fall on you. And so, so it's always good to try to do good, do right, because if you're not, eventually you're just going to fall in old patterns, or put yourself in a situation you wish you never got yourself into. And so it's always good to just realize when you're doing something that could potentially cause you a lot of suffering.
Yeah, and I feel like it's just like it's important to pay attention to your emotional landscape in general, and where you are in life, and to listen to what's going on inside of you. I think there's a good reason why this is like the first step of those noble truths, to to really pay attention to what's going on inside of you, to like just, even if you're in a bad place, you don't have to make yourself smile. You don't have to tell yourself that it's okay when it's not. Bad things, they oftentimes have something for us in them, like bad times or whatever, and for us to really be able to understand ourselves, and to understand what we're going through, and to make peace with it. I think we need to reach that step in the even in psychology, like you mentioned, the stages of grief, of acceptance. and that we are in a bad place. And, once we can accept where we are, once we can accept what we're feeling, then we can look at what we're feeling and we can see, okay, so now what can I do about this? Even if it's a small thing, right? Sometimes we are in situations that are beyond our control, Like we find ourselves in a position that it feels like almost at times that the universe is picking on us. That like we just, we're so downtrodden, we're so low, we're so hurt, and nobody seems to understand or to recognize it. That like it makes no sense to us, and so to be able to really understand and to work on that, we need to first allow ourselves to accept where we are and to accept how we're feeling, and to just think and find a way to do even something small, right, that is in our control and that we can do something about, to just kind of help ourselves out even that little bit. And every little bit that we do, it adds up. It stacks on top of each other, Eventually, we find ourselves somewhere a little bit better.
Basically,
Well,
we're having a paper towel. I'm turning somebody's windows on their car, and that shit's so goddamn,
Yeah.
like, oh my god.
Mhm.
What's going on with you, man?
We're just doing a little podcast after service.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a little discussion, talking about the message, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, just it's important to really just reach that acceptance so that we can start to improve on our situation in whatever way we can.
Yeah, there's in any amount of suffering, there's always a silver lining to everything. Nothing's ever hopeless. And until we're dead, nothing's ever too late. A lot of times we kick ourselves and think, oh, it's too late, I'll never be able to do this. But like with anytime something bad happens and causes suffering, there's something to be learned about it. It strengthens us mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And we all go through it at some point, some worse than others, and a lot of it has to do with how you process that suffering. If it's something that we can't help, if it's just something inevitable, that a death of a family member, or just some, like our house gets destroyed or something, definitely, it's going to cause an extreme amount of grief and suffering. Sometimes we can't help things, but in the long run, though, it's a matter of how you process that. So I could tell myself, oh, it's gonna get better, or oh, it's not that bad, I've gone through worse. There's always ways where we can console ourselves. You never know when you might unexpectedly, the situation might be even better than what you expected before.
Right.
And so, you keep kicking yourself, and say, oh, I should have did this or I should have did that. But, you know, it's just going to cause you more suffering. So, you know, in the long term, you know, it all starts in your mind. You know, you have to be willing to accept change and to embrace bad situations because it's inevitable. Change is inevitable, despite how much people don't like change. And, you know, pain and suffering and agony, that's all inevitable because, you know, nobody's perfect. You know, we're all going to go through something bad in our life, you know, so if we just try to cope with it the best way without destroying ourselves, you know, and deal with it in a healthy manner, then, you know, that's when I think we can really start to find the joy, you know, because if, you know, you can't have joy without suffering, you know, and so because you can't really appreciate happiness and joy if you don't know what pains are, you know, and you know, you might have somebody who's born privileged and that's all they've ever known is an easy life, you know, then joy and happiness is going to seem empty and meaningless, you know, because they've never had it rough, they've never had a hard life, and so, you know, so sometimes just appreciating the small things can really help with your suffering, you know.
Right. And, you know, like, I feel like, what's it, just like, what's it, being in these places, you know, like, a lot of times I look back on portions of my life and I feel like I went through something awful, but I wouldn't be the person I am now if I didn't go through that awful thing. And sometimes all it really takes is just, you know, getting through today, right? Like, there's a game that I've been kind of fixated on lately. I've watched playthroughs, and there's a phrase that one of the characters, or a few of the characters say, which is, tomorrow comes, right? Which, that's a very powerful statement. You know, like, no matter what you're going through, no matter how you're feeling in the moment, like, there's always tomorrow. There's always a chance for things to improve, a chance for things to get better. And, like, even if, like, you can't always make things better for yourself in the moment, maybe you can make things a little bit better for somebody else, right? You know, or maybe you can just, like, make the most of what you have in the moment.
Yeah, because, I mean, sometimes that's all you can do. If you're stuck in a situation and you can't do anything about it, you know, it's better to just, like I said, see the silver lining. You know? I might be in a bad situation. I can't do anything for myself, but, you know, I try to look, even in a real bad situation, I try to look at the more positive side, you know, and try to, even if, let's say, I might be having a really bad situation in one particular thing, it might not prevent me from doing something better for myself in another particular thing. And then eventually, when it all passes away and, you know, the bad situation has run its course, and now you're in a better spot than you were before because you did something you wouldn't normally have done, and now the suffering and agony of what already has happened has already played its course. And so you've already ran through the consequences, or just, you know, you've had your suffering, and after, you know, uh, dealing it with for so long, you know, and properly coping with it, then you realize, wow, you know, now I'm a little better off than I was before, you
Yeah.
know, and that's always something to be uh, to to be on the lookout for. So even if it seems like it might be hopeless in this situation, you know, you might be able to, you know, be able to do something else that might be better.
Yeah, and like sometimes these hard times can condition us so that we can handle something that someone else can't, you know? And getting to that point makes us able to become a person that we wouldn't be able to become otherwise. So now I want to move on to just like, you know, what have you been going through this week? How have you been, anything you've integrated, anything you've learned, anything you've been going through?
Well, I just, I, I'm always just struggling, you know, and so just financially, emotionally, you know, it's always kind of a struggle for me, you know, and so I just always try to look at the brighter side of things, you know. I try to be optimistic, even when it doesn't seem like it's so, you know, bright, you know, because I always tell myself, well, I don't like my job right now, but I know that, you know, I'm bound to get a better job eventually, or, you know, anything can happen. Maybe I might get more hours, you know, you never know, but I always try to be optimistic in that, you know, and so, or, you know, anything can happen. I could find a new job, I could, you know, maybe something can happen where I won't need a job, maybe get a second job, you know, you never know. And so, you know, and just those little frustrations, just something as simple as not really being happy with the job, you know, it's just kind of one of those things where, you know, I get stuck in a rut, and then I don't know what to do because, you know, and so I get bored, and then the boredom, you know, causes me sadness and frustration, and I don't know how to deal with it, you know, and so, you know, I try to find inner peace within myself.
Right. And I feel like that really is something that like you can kind of focus on, like what is it that's really making me so like so bored, so frustrated, you know, like how can I what little changes can I do now to alleviate that, even in small ways, you know, and how can I like just have better or have more hope for the future about these things, and you know, recognize this. For myself, I'll say that this week has been interesting. Like I definitely, you know, I feel like I'm going through like some different growing pains. I've been taking on some more responsibility, and you know, I feel like I've actually something that's happened this week for me recently. A friend came to me saying that she's about to be homeless. You know, like she's in a bad situation. She asked like if I knew anyone who was like renting, and like she gave me like what our limit was, like, you know, her situation. And so like I've been kind of looking for you know, a place that she can possibly find to stay. So I've been trying to help her out with that. But you know, overall, I feel like I'm getting more accustomed to really, in my 29th year of life, being an adult. Honestly, like being responsible and being more, paying more attention to what I need to do for myself and in order to help people around me. So yeah, I feel like that's really what I've been working on, what I've been feeling lately. And if anyone, when this goes up, who watches this, feels like, or lives in the Tallahassee area and feels like, letting me know about any kind of opportunity for my friends, if you feel like leaving a comment or messaging, just feel free. But yeah, so is there anything else that you feel like you'd like to share or like to expound upon?
No, I think we covered it pretty good.
All right. Well, then, for those who are dropping off here, namaste, sat nam, thank you for joining us. I actually have one more thing that I'd like to add this time around. It was something I thought of before, like I got the sermon for this week. And like I had something in my mind that was like, oh well, I could do something kind of off the cuff, or like I could read a bit from something. And so I've got a book here that I can read a little bit to you guys, a little bit of a book club. But I'm not going to read too much, just a little bit of a section for you guys. So whoever wants to continue on, thank you for joining me. Whoever wants to go, I wish you a good week to come. This is In Tune with the Infinite by Ralph Waldo Trine. It is actually a book from that was written, or that was published in 1879. So it's an older book. So I'll start with the preface. There is a golden thread that runs through every religion in the world. There is a golden thread that runs through the lives and the teachings of all prophets, seers, sages, and saviors in the world's history, through all the lives of all men and women of truly great and lasting power. All that they have ever done or attained to has been done in full accordance with law. What one has done, all may do. This same golden thread must enter into the lives of all who today, in this busy workaday world of ours, would exchange impotence for power, weakness and suffering for abounding health and strength, pain and unrest for perfect peace, poverty of whatever nature for fullness and plenty. Each is building his own world. We both build from within and we attract from without. Thought is the force with which we build, for thoughts are forces. Like builds like, and like attracts like. In the degree that thought is spiritualized, does it become more subtle and powerful in its workings. This spiritualizing is in accordance with law and is within the power of all. Everything is first worked out in the unseen before it is manifested in the seen, in the ideal before it is realized in the real, in the spiritual before it shows forth in the material. The realm of the unseen is the realm of cause. The realm of the seen is the realm of effect. The nature of effect is always determined and conditioned by the nature of its cause. To point out the great facts in connection with and the great laws underlying the workings of the interior spiritual thought forces, to point them out so simply and so clearly that even a child can understand, is the author's aim. To point them out so simply and so clearly that all can grasp them, that all can take them and infuse them into everyday life, so as to mold it in all its details in accordance with what they would have it, in his purpose. That life can thus be molded by them is not a matter of mere speculation or theory with them, but a matter of positive knowledge. There is a divine sequence running throughout the universe. Within and above and below, the human will incessantly works the divine will to come into harmony with it, and thereby with all higher laws and forces, to come in, then into league and to work in conjunction with them, in order that they can work in league and in conjunction with us, is to come into the chain of this wonderful sequence. This is the secret of all success. This is to come into the possession of unknown riches, into the realization of undreamed of powers. And then the prelude. The optimist is right. The pessimist is right. The one differs from the other as the light from the dark, yet both are right. Each is right from his own particular point of view, and this point of view is the determining factor in the life of each. It determines as to whether it is a life of power or of impotence, of peace or of pain, of success or of failure. The optimist has the power of seeing things in their entirety and in their right relations. The pessimist looks from a limited and a one-sided point of view. The one has his understanding illumined by wisdom. The understanding of the other is darkened by ignorance. Each is building his world from within, and the result of the building is determined by the point of view of each. The optimist, by his superior wisdom and insight, is making his own heaven, and in the degree that he makes his own heaven, is he helping to make one for all the world beside. The pessimist, by virtue of his limitations, is making his own hell, and in the degree that he makes his own hell, is he helping to make one for all of mankind. You and I have the predominating characteristics of an optimist or the predominating characteristics of a pessimist. We then are making hour by hour our own heaven or our own hell. In the degree that we are making the one or the other for ourselves, are we helping make it for all the world beside. The word heaven means harmony. The word hell is from the Old English hell, meaning to build a wall around, to separate. To be held was to be shut off from. Now, if there is such a thing as harmony, there must be that something one can be in right relations with. For to be in right relations with anything is to be in harmony with it. Again, if there is such a thing as being held, shut off, separated from, there must be that something from which one is held, shut off, or separated. And I'll finish off there for today. We can continue on next week after our discussion. I'll go ahead and play for you all the final video for the Lotus flower, showing everything that we provide and everything we offer. And to those who've stayed with us all up to now, namaste and satnam to you all. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I look forward to seeing you next week.